This man is Dave Courtney. He has robbed, extorted and murdered his way to become one of the most feared and revered criminals in Britain. He is known as the Yellow Pages of the underworld. If you need someone killed, a driver for your getaway car, or a dodgy doctor to patch up a bullet wound, Dave Courtney will know someone who can help.
Dave's a proper man. Be fair with him and he'll be fair with you. You try to fuck him and he'll fuck you. Simple as that.
It's September 1999, and Courtney has brought his boys back together for one last job. If it comes off, it could make Courtney a rich man. The trouble is, the police are following his every move. Courtney and his gang arrive at a leading bookstore on London's Oxford Street. Not to rob the place, but to publicise the launch of his autobiography. Like Ronnie Biggs, Lenny McLean and Mad Frankie Fraser before him, Dave Courtney has decided to cash in on his notoriety by recounting the gory details of his terrible crimes.
Everyone take a look at this. That's how you got to do it. 6 at a time or piss off out of it.
Virgin Publishing has paid him an undisclosed amount for the book and promised Courtney his colourful history will ensure that it's a bestseller. Courtney now hopes to become Britain's most wanted celebrity gangster.
Wait.
He's a very, very aggressive man and very dangerous. He's been linked to several murders. He's confessed to murder, several murders, not just in this country but also abroad. His book, even brazenly in his book, he decided to confess to 2 murders in that as well. So someone like this is not a nice man, and although he is at first sight a gentleman, you'll never find a more charming man, but I think that therein lies his danger and power.
That's it.
Dave Courtney has assembled his gang for a photo shoot. Unlike most criminals who try to conceal their crimes, Courtney has decided to tell the whole world about his.
I've done what would be said in the Bible is the most cardinal sin, and had to take someone's life on more than one occasion. But once again, I feel I was justified in that, as it was sort of put upon me that it was a me or him situation. Now, that doesn't happen to normal people in normal everyday life, but in very rare occasions in my way of life, then that does arise.
There is certain problems in this life where people need a fucking good hiding, and Dave was the one that would usually give it to them. You know what I mean? He would be the chosen one. People would say, Dave, this fucker really needs a hiding. We can't talk to him, we can't deal with him, so Dave, they knew, would go and do the job.
A lot of the things that he's had to give people a clump for, he has made sure that he's justified for it. He's got morals about the way he handles his life, and I respect him for that.
People might look at us lot and say they're a complete and utter rabble, but Dave can control that rabble. You know, he can pull them all together as one and control them. There are so many people out there, if they heard a whisper of anyone going to harm him, they would fucking jump to his defence. You know, he can rustle up a proper army when he wants to.
What I think my main input into the criminal world is this. I provide morale. I make the criminal game look like a careers option.
You might expect a gangster like Dave Courtney to come from a criminal background. But on the contrary, his father was a Cub Scout leader and his mother worked as a store detective in Woolworths. His mother says she struggled with his behaviour as a boy, but that early efforts to reform him failed miserably.
Oh, yes, you tried. Very hard you tried. And you sat for hours and talked at night time. You sat and waited because you were worried, you didn't know where he was. So you sat up till 2, 3 in the morning, you come in, you talk to him for hours again to know why, what and wherefore. You just talked and you think, oh, yeah, I've won, I've got through, yeah, fine. You know, you go to bed and you think, next day, you hadn't got through at all.
Courtney was born on the 17th of February 1959 and grew up here on the Sheffield Park estate in South London.
That's where I learned to ride a bike. That's where I learned to steal cars. and it was my first experience of gang stuff, you know. Like this estate had its own gang, and that estate had its own gang, and then your school had its own gang, and you know, it was my first experience of the gang thing where boys are concerned, and that is very, very addictive in itself, because the comradeship, the me and mine and us against them, really appealed to me.
At the beginning of the 1970s, a young Dave Courtney attended Forest Hill School. He was considered a problem pupil, but one teacher did manage to get through to him.
One of the teachers we had there was John Edwards, I remember, who to me was just the most hip, trendy teacher you could possibly imagine. But everyone liked John Edwards, especially the naughty kids. I don't know why. That might not be a good advert for him, whatever he's doing now, but the naughty kids loved him.
I remember Dave very well as a 15, 16-year-old with, I thought, a talent to tell a story, a talent of acting. And I think if I'd chosen a life for him, it probably would have been down that road. I think he could and maybe still will be another Bob Hoskins. He could have been a really good comedian, real stand-up comedian. And I suppose if I'd had a choice for him, I would have wanted him to pursue that career rather than going into the criminal path that he did.
Courtney was introduced to the criminal underworld at his local boxing gym.
He went into boxing, he met all these people, he saw them all having a good time, money, big cars, jewellery, and he just thought, fine, fair enough, this is what I want and I'm going to have some.
While going to these amateur gyms when I was young, I actually saw these elder men coming in who were legends in the criminal world, was treated with such unashamedly respect, and people bending over backwards for them. It didn't matter how old they were or what they looked like. They always seemed to have a pretty lady on their arm. They always had a beautiful car outside, and they was dressed immaculately. And that burnt into my head, that is what I want to be.
After Courtney left school, he sank into a life of petty crime. Before long, he was stealing cars, breaking into newsagents and hijacking lorries.
As you're growing up, the messing about turns into money-making naughtiness, right? And that's how it actually evolves. You don't think, well, I'll go out and I'll be a villain. You're just going out for a laugh and all that. And the things you're doing for a laugh, you realise you could actually put to work and put into genuine money-making schemes. That's when a laugh becomes criminal.
But Courtney was about to graduate from small-time crook to organised gangster. It all started on New Year's Eve 1979, when his younger brother was beaten up by kitchen staff in a local Chinese restaurant in a dispute over his food order.
And I, with a load of my mates, ran up to the Chinese restaurant where this had took place and burst in and asked, you know, in no uncertain terms, who had just attacked the 14-year-old. And they all started hopping over the counter with knives and swords and sabres and all that, saying, oh, it was me, it was me, it was me, and all that. And so I went for the guy with the big knife first. I got the skewer knife thing off of this guy. He jumped up onto the counter. And I actually said to him, now what are you going to do? You're up there, you know what I mean? What are you going to do now, you fucking idiot? And he just dived onto me. I mean, my arm was 2 foot, the knife was 2 foot, so I was standing like that, and he just dived onto me. It went in and come out. And then it all sort of slipped into turbo again, and everyone was attacking me with dinner knives, and I had to fight my way out of the restaurant.
Courtney was sentenced to 3.5 years for carrying an offensive weapon with intent, actual bodily harm and affray. The original charge of attempted murder was dropped at the trial.
I was a very young man at the time. I was only 21, and it was a very enlightening experience for me. You know, an invaluable experience for me, going to prison at that early age with such a little sentence. You know, what I learned, some people get a 10-year stretch to learn, you know. A little one at the beginning of your career is good.
Courtney's stretch in prison fueled his criminal ambitions and also taught him how to realise them. When he was released 18 months later, he was determined to use his new knowledge to begin his career in organised crime.